Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. And so we gather on a Tuesday evening to celebrate the life of Holy Mother, to study her life, to exult in the fact that she lived among us and served for so many years after the Masters leaving the body in 1886. Here we are in the early 20th century, and she lived among us until 1920. Almost unbelievable that the Mother of the Universe was here just 100 years ago. But nevertheless, it's true. So Mother returns to Udbodhan on 13 December 1919. The Mother's devotees observed her 66th birthday in Jairambati. 66th birthday. My goodness. The Master only lived until age 50. Vivekananda until only age 39. So Mother lived into her 67th year. So on 13 December 1919, the Mother's devotees observed her 66th birthday in Jairambati. Holy Mother had been suffering off and on from malaria, and as a result, her body became weak and emaciated. When local treatment failed, imagine, emaciated. She wasn't able to eat properly, take nourishment properly. When local treatment failed, Saradananda sent Swamis Atma Prakashananda, and Bhumananda and Boshishwar Sen to bring Holy Mother back to Calcutta. It was decided to also bring Radhu and her mother, Nalini, Maku, Mandakini, and Brahmachari Bharata. The Mother left Jairambati on 24 February and arrived at Udbodhan House on 27 February 1920. Several doctors were engaged to treat Holy Mother. Although weak and fragile, she continued to accept a limited number of visitors. Slowly, she was withdrawing her mind from Radhu, though Banu had his full share of her love. That was the infant, Radhu's child. Since Radhu could hardly look after I'm sorry, I'm having that trouble with this darn machine. Since Radhu could hardly look after her baby, Sarala took responsibility for the baby's care. Dr. Kanjilal gave notice that he would not treat the baby unless I'm sorry, I don't know why this happens. Dr. Kanjalal said he wouldn't treat the child unless the child was kept away from his mother. One day, Holy Mother remarked, "She cannot even take care of herself. Why did God give her a child?" In Holy Mother's divine drama, Radhu played her part very well. The mother was oh, come on. The mother explained again and again the role of Radhu in her life. We should be indebted to Radhu in that she was responsible for keeping the mother on earth for such a long period. During the 20 years that Holy Mother's life was intertwined with hers, the Master fulfilled his unfinished mission through Holy Mother. Now, that meant the unfinished earthly mission. Both of their missions continue today. This phrasing means the earthly mission, the earthly what great spiritual wave they were bringing. The Master fulfilled his unfinished mission through Holy Mother. She exemplified the ideal of a householder, the ideal of womanhood, and the motherhood of God. In her relationship with Radhu, Holy Mother also showed how to maintain equanimity of mind in spite of ill treatment and abuse. Holy Mother was the embodiment of patience and perseverance, love and affection, compassion and dispassion, forgiveness and forbearance. I'm going to repeat that list. Holy Mother was the embodiment of patience and perseverance, love and affection, compassion and dispassion, forgiveness and forbearance. And we may rely on her for that even now. She said, when you're in distress, remember you have a mother. When you're in distress, remember you have a mother. And the mother has these attributes, these characteristics: patience, perseverance, love, affection, compassion and dispassion, forgiveness and forbearance. She set an example for how one should live in this world under untoward circumstances. And Lord knows the 20th century and 21st century has been filled with untoward circumstances. Through Radhu, Holy Mother also demonstrated the ideal of a karma yogi as described in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, that was the end. There were a bunch of footnotes. I just skipped over them. So we're to chapter 20, Holy Mother in the midst of her family. There's a verse from the Chandi. It's from chapter 11, verse 5. O Mother, you are the, no, is it chapter 11? O Mother, you are the great primal energy. Okay, I'll start again. Chandi, chapter 11, verse 5. O Mother, you are the great primal energy, the source of infinite strength. You are the seed of the world and illusion divine. You have enchanted the whole universe, O Goddess Supreme, with your deluding charms. You have enchanted the whole universe O Goddess Supreme, with your deluding charms. In your benevolence, you bestow liberation upon human beings. It's said in the Chandi that Mother bestows both enjoyment and liberation. And when it is time for us, I just read this in the Gospel this morning. The Master was speaking to some Marwari devotees, and he said, "Don't worry, everything comes at the right time." So, and he used the example of a child saying to its mother, as the child is being put to bed, "Mother, when I feel the call of nature, wake me up so that I can meet that call of nature." And the mother says, "Oh, my child, you needn't worry. You will wake up on your own when that call is felt." And so the Master used that as an example of this dawning of the yearning for liberation, this dawning of the sense of bondage, and that we are freer than we feel ourselves to be. This comes at the right time. And here, of course, are all these people represented by their images or names on the screen that feel this yearning, which is why you're with us on a Tuesday night. So celebrate that. Celebrate the fact that this is awakened in you and will bear fruit. So this is chapter 20, Holy Mother in the midst of her family. Once Ramakrishna asked Jogin, if you remember Swami Yogananda, Jogin became Swami Yogananda. Once Ramakrishna asked Jogin, "What do you think of me?" Jogin replied, "You are neither a householder nor a sannyasin." He meant the Master was God, beyond attributes. Ramakrishna was greatly pleased and exclaimed, "What an extraordinary statement." Similarly, one cannot put any designation, nun or householder, on Holy Mother. She was the Divine Mother. Now this is Swami Chaitananda speaking here. It's up to us to listen up. We cannot put any designation. There is no limitation by idea or phrase that we can put on Holy Mother. She was neither nun nor householder. She was the Divine Mother, which is by definition infinite, eternal, and the creator, sustainer, and destroyer of, or transformer of our lives and of the universe. By himself, Ramakrishna could not demonstrate how to lead an ideal householder's life. His householder devotees were in awe of his incredible renunciation and frequent experiences of samadhi. They felt helpless because they knew it was impossible to follow such an uncompromising and lofty ideal. And indeed, there's no way that we can compare ourselves to the Master of the universe, to Ishvara. It's just when we think those thoughts, when we try to compare ourselves and say, "Oh, I fall short of that." Well, of course we do. This was the Master of Maya. So of course, his devotees felt, his intimate, particularly the more intimate householder devotees, how could they follow such an uncompromising and lofty ideal? For that reason, Ramakrishna put Holy Mother in the role of an ideal householder so that people could see how to live in a family, yet remain detached from the world. And even so, we must not compare ourselves with Holy Mother. This is the mistress of the universe. Her powers, she lived in samadhi at the 5th level, Vivekananda said. She lived in Bhava Samadhi at the 5th plane, the plane of the throat. So we can, there is the ideal that she showed and demonstrated. And we can hold that ideal and try to live to that ideal, but never be hard on ourselves when we're not able to sustain it. Of course we will fall short. We do not have the power of the Mother of the universe. But as Vivekananda said, we fall 1,000 times, we rise 1,001 times. So Sri Ramakrishna put Mother there as an ideal householder so that people could see how to live in a family, yet remain detached from the world, which both of them, the Master Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, spoke of as mental renunciation. Live in a family, yet remain detached from the world by mental renunciation. As a swan swims in the water, becomes dry the moment it shakes its wings on dry land, Holy Mother lived in the midst of her family circle, yet remained free, like a Paramahamsa, a supreme swan. Of course, like regular householders, she cried and smiled, and she suffered from worries and anxieties, grief and pain, and financial and physical problems. Let me list those again. Like regular householders, Mother cried and smiled, and she suffered from worries and anxieties, grief and pain, and financial and physical problems. I'm sure that sounds very familiar to all of us. In addition, she faced abuse and was beset by demands from close relatives. Again, I don't think this sounds too unfamiliar to any of us. Still, she maintained her calm and serenity, forbearance and forgiveness, love and compassion. As an actor performs 2 roles, one on the stage and the other at home, so the Mother acted in 2 roles simultaneously. She performed her duty towards her brothers, sister-in-law, nieces and nephews, and yet she also acted as a spiritual teacher, initiating and awakening God consciousness in her devotees' minds. And as you may recall, it's been said that she probably had, by the end of her life, she probably had over 2,000 disciples. We have to think that she began in 1887. Jogan, Swami Yogananda was her first disciple. So 13 years plus 20 years, that's 33 years. 33 years she was initiating people. That's a very long time. And longer than the Master was teaching, initiating. So she had many, many disciples. Sometimes in family life, we find much selfishness cruelty, hatred, jealousy, quarreling, and ill feelings, no peace or joy. Many worldly married people turn in their homes. Now remember, this is Swami Chetananda speaking from experience. Sometimes in family life, we find much selfishness, cruelty, hatred, jealousy, quarreling, and ill feelings, no peace or joy. Many worldly minded people turn their homes into hell. Ramakrishna and Holy Mother demonstrated how to transform that hell into heaven. Ramakrishna graphically described the worldly minded. The worldly minded never come to their senses, even though they suffer and have terrible experiences. I'm going to repeat that. The worldly minded never come to their senses, even though they suffer and have terrible experiences. Camels are very fond of thorny shrubs. The more they eat of them, the more do their mouths bleed, yet they do not refrain from making them their food. The worldly man is like a snake trying to swallow a mole. The snake can neither swallow the mole nor give it up. The bound soul may have realized that there is no substance to the world, that the world is like a hog plum, only stone and skin, but still he cannot give it up and turn his mind to God. There is another characteristic of the bound soul. If you remove him from his worldly surroundings to a spiritual environment, he will pine away. The worm that grows in filth feels very happy there. It thrives in filth. It will die if you put it in a pot of rice. Before Ramakrishna passed away, he asked Holy Mother to look after the people of Calcutta, most of whom were worldly minded and materialistic. Later, the mother remarked that the master had concentrated on a selected few and left the masses for her. Now, let me just ask, does that seem inappropriate to you? She remarked that the master had concentrated on a selected few and left the masses for her. What do you think?
I think the master probably expected those selected to do more work, whereas the ones whom she uh, gave the diksha, she didn't expect everybody to go and work in public or something.
Sham, that's a very, very acute observation. You're right. The master of his inner circle, particularly those boys that became the order, he expected great things of them. You're absolutely right. And the mother, on the other hand, would say to her devotees, disciples, "Oh, don't worry, everything is being done for you. The master has done it for you, or I am doing it for you." Of course, some select few of her disciples were very uh, active and did marvelous things. But that was a very good insight, Sham, that the master expected much of those selected few that he had, and there are two books about them. They lived with him, and he lived with them. I forget. Are those the exact titles, Shailesh? Are those? Is that right? He lived with them. They lived with
They
him.
lived with God and God lived with them.
Ah,
They lived with
okay.
God
They
is
lived
about
with God. God lived
the
with them.
householder disciples, and God lived with them is about the sannyasi disciples, the
Okay.
16.
So there's these two books, both by Chaitanananda, that describe the master's relationship with and the expectations that he had of this close circle of devotees.
On the same lines, what Sham said, now I remember in God lived with them, um, in one of the direct disciples' life, I think Swami Shivananda, Mahapurush Maharaj,
Ah,
Sri Ramakrishna had said to the three disciples that in future you will have to initiate a lot of people. And this was in the early 80s, mid 80s, So these were boys actually. And those were Swami Vivekananda, Swami Brahmananda, and Swami Shivananda.
mm-hmm.
So these three of them, and I don't think so he said anything to else. So Swami Premananda, he never made disciples, but he did a lot of work. But I think on the same lines what Sham said, yes, I mean, I think he unleashed the power through them.
Yes, but there were others who initiated a goodly number. Vijnanananda initiated a goodly number. I think Akhandananda also.
Yeah,
But in any case, you're
Sarad
right.
Maharaj, my Param Guru, he initiated my Guru Maharaj. So they were
Yeah.
other disciples.
Yes. But this, the masses that the mother took care of, the master regarded his intimate disciples as his limbs. The mother regarded her disciples as her children. And of course, this is appropriate. This is the mother of the universe. This is the creator, sustainer, and transformer of us. There are those who have felt, the reason I brought this up, there are those who have felt that the master dealt with the mother unfairly in this regard. But I think it's interesting that the insight was immediately surfaced, that there were very different expectations of the master's disciples and the mother's disciples. The mother's disciples were given liberation, no further need for embodiment. The master's disciples were expected to help others achieve that state, whether they did it by taking disciples themselves or simply by doing the master's will, as Shailesh pointed out about Swami Premananda, did a tremendous amount of work. But as Shailesh pointed out, he did not make disciples.
Another point I would like to mention is that though mother, she initiated 2,000 disciples approximately, like you're saying, most of them were householders. And
Yes.
all these people, her power was, it kept alive through generations, I believe. Because like if you take example of our treasurer, Pranabji, his wife, Jayanti ji, her father was an initiated disciple.
Mm-hmm.
So through family generations, this power still stayed alive.
Yes.
It's not, it affected somewhere or the other, like the kids, grandkids, and eventually. So I think it's her grace and it's her blessing, I would say. Just my observation. I don't know.
Very, very well said, Shailesh. That power does not dissipate. This is why I emphasize over and over. That power is not lost to us simply because these great ones have passed out of the body. They remain with us in their subtle form. And when Mother said, when you're in distress, remember you have a mother, she wasn't just saying that to the people who lived with her at that time. That is a message to us. And from here I can say, I have known many who have felt Mother's touch. I heard a story just today of a disciple who had an experience of Mother, very, very sweet, a devotee, I should say, not a devotee of Mother, not a disciple of Mother, but a devotee. Just today I was told of that. So this is not, she is not lost to us. Anything else on this point or any other point? All right.
Where did she initiate most of her disciples? In
Uh, she, dear heart, it's hard to say because she was just doing it all the time. Many were initiated in Jairambati. They would come there for initiation, for Diksha. She would initiate, people would stop her on the road and say, Mother, Mother, give me Diksha. And she would say, all right, go take a bath in that pond and come back. Or sometimes not even that. She would just, and then of course, many, many, many came to her at Udbodhan and at the other places she lived. But particularly after she moved to Udbodhan, people would come and come and come and come. But I don't know that there's been a reckoning of how many where exactly. Good question, but I don't know the answer. So Mother remarked that the master had concentrated on a selected few and left the masses for her. How can we harmonize the world and God, the active life and contemplative life? Spiritual aspirants all over the world ask this question. Ramakrishna answered it with this following illustration. In Kamarpukur, now this is quoting the master, in Kamarpukur, I have seen the women of carpenter families making flattened rice with a husking machine. One woman kicks the end of the wooden beam, and another woman, while nursing her baby, turns the paddy in the mortar dug in the earth. The second woman is always alert, lest the pestle of the machine should fall on her hand. So this hammer pestle is going up and down to flatten the rice. When it goes up, she turns the paddy so that it gets uniformly flattened. She has to constantly be aware that, once the beam is kicked, it goes up, but the person that made it go up, they have no control over it coming down. It just goes up and then comes down. And so she, the master then goes on. She's always on the alert that the pestle of the machine should not fall on her hand. With the other hand, she fries the soaked paddy in a pan. Besides, she's talking with the customers. She says, you owe us so much money, please pay it before you go. We call this multitasking, no? She's multitasking. So the master says, likewise, do your different duties in the world, fixing your mind on God. Likewise, do your different duties in the world, fixing your mind on God. But practice is necessary, and one should also be alert. Only in this way can one safeguard both God and the world. So there's a direct instruction to us. Holy Mother demonstrated this teaching in her own life and in her relationship with her family. So that was Holy Mother in her relationship with her family. And now the subhead is worldly but blessed brothers. Holy Mother's father died in 1874 and her mother in 1906. Although Holy Mother had been blessed with godly parents, she was truly unfortunate regarding her other relatives. Her brothers, Prasanna, Kalikumar, and Bharata, were greedy, selfish, and quarrelsome. Her sisters-in-law were opportunists and jealous of one another, and her nieces were demanding, annoying, jealous, and eccentric. Holy Mother was the eldest among 5 brothers and 1 sister. Her sister, Kadambini, died soon after she was married, leaving no offspring. Her brother Umesh died at the age of 18 or 19, unmarried. Abhaicharan, the youngest child, died from cholera after finishing medical school, leaving his insane wife, Surabala, who was pregnant with their daughter Radhu. The remaining 3 brothers, Prasanna, Kalikumar, and Bharata, lived to old age. Prasanna and Bharata, Justine, I'm in class. Prasanna and Bharata spent most of their time in Calcutta and supported their families by performing rituals in different homes. Prasanna married Ramapriya and had 2 daughters, Nalini and Sushila, also known as Maku. When Ramapriya died in 1905, Prasanna married Subhashini, who bore him 3 children, Kamala, Bimala, and Ganapati. Nalini and Maku were later married, but had unhappy lives. They were tossed between irresponsible husbands and their stepmother, who disliked them, so they lived mostly with Holy Mother. So you can see, Mother was surrounded by these people who were constantly beset with problems. Bharata married Indramati, and they had 2 sons, Kshudiram and Vijay Krishna. Kalikumar lived in Jairambati and made his living through priestly duties and farming. Kalikumar was short-tempered and never got along with his brothers. He loved power and wanted to control the family affairs, and he always pestered Holy Mother for money. The stories about this are just horrifying. Kalikumar married Subodbala, is that right? Subodbala, and had 2 boys, Budeb and Radharaman. The members of Holy Mother's immediate family were also associated with her life in various ways. Her sisters-in-law were much younger than she, and she taught them their household duties, including how to cook. Once a jeweler knows the value, only a jeweler knows the value of a jewel. An eggplant seller knows only eggplants. Neither Ramakrishna's nor Holy Mother's relatives recognized the divinity of the two. Ramlal, Lakshmi, and Shivaram considered the master to be merely their uncle. Prasanna, Kali Kumar, and Bharata thought of Holy Mother simply as their sister, and to their children she was merely an aunt. Divine beings cannot play the role of humans if people recognize their true nature. One can know God only through his or her grace. The Upanishad says, the Atman is attained by that person whom it chooses. And if we reflect on the life of Jesus Christ, he too said, ye have not chosen me, I have chosen you. So I'm going to repeat that. The Upanishad says, the Atman is attained by that person whom it chooses. Girish Ghosh once remarked that Holy Mother's brothers must have performed bone-breaking austerities in a previous life to have obtained her as their sister. Kali Kumar always took advantage of Holy Mother's goodness, with a view to getting some money from her and also to show his power. In 1917, he proposed that the family observe Sri Ramakrishna's birthday festival in a grand way in Jairambati. Holy Mother responded, look, Kali, I do not have the devotion and energy that you have, so I cannot observe the Master's birth anniversary on such a large scale myself. You make a feast for the entire household, as well as some villagers, with whatever vegetables are available in this village. As you see, my health is failing day by day. Kali Kumar took money from her and arranged the feast. Before Durga Puja in 1918, Prasanna went to Calcutta to perform his duties there. Before he left, he said to the mother, Sister, you have just come to Jairambati, and I am leaving for Calcutta. Please look after my wife and children. Now, Kali will have a nice time. He has sufficient land to live well here with his family, but I must leave my family to earn money. Kali Kumar overheard the conversation and remarked, now you are whining before our sister to get money from her. Prasanna replied, look, Kali, it doesn't matter if you respect me. We both know that I was born after our sister and you after me. Do you have any love and devotion for your sister, for our sister? I know our sister's greatness more than you do. You only know about her money. How painful that must have been to Holy Mother's ears. Kali Kumar replied, I served Paramahamsa Deva Ramakrishna, and he used to love me. You never tried to be close to him. Moreover, I take care of our sister and devotees here. You don't understand how much devotion I have for our sister. Prasanna responded, you can respect her as I do. You can't respect her as I do. Only our sister knows how much I know. Only our sister knows, and I know. Holy Mother listened to her two brothers' arguments and smiled. She later remarked, my brothers are all truly jewels. They practiced severe austerities in their previous births, so that now live with their families. So that I now live with their families. They practiced severe austerities in their previous birth, so that I now live with their families. I have never seen such attachments as they have. When Prasanna lived in Calcutta, he made good money. However, he was very miserly and calculating. Once, when Holy Mother was in Jairambati, his 2-year-old daughter, Kamala, fell ill with a fever. The local doctor could not bring the fever down, and more money was needed to hire a better doctor. News was sent to Prasanna, but he refused to come and would not send any money. He thought that his sister would take care of everything. This time, Holy Mother did not tolerate his demands. She gravely remarked, "He has a child every year. Why will he not pay for his children's medical expenses?" Fortunately, Kamala got well under the local doctor's care. One day in December 1918, Holy Mother was seated on the veranda of her house in Jairambati. Suddenly, Kali Kumar and Bharata began to quarrel about a fence that Kali Kumar had put up. That extended fence created an obstruction for carrying paddy, the rice. That extended fence created an obstruction for carrying paddy to Bharata's farmyard. They were about to come to blows when Holy Mother jumped between them and grabbed each one by the hand, blaming both for the quarrel. During the commotion, her veil fell aside, and she did not notice. When some monks rushed to the spot, the brothers walked away to their houses, cursing each other. The mother returned to her veranda and suddenly burst into laughter. "What an illusion Mahamaya, the great enchantress, has conjured up," she exclaimed. Now here's an instruction for us. Holy Mother witnessed this quarrel, actually intervened in the quarrel, and then when it was over, she said, she burst into laughter rather than lamenting and saying, oh, this, that, and the other thing about what had happened. She burst into laughter and said, "What an illusion Mahamaya, the great enchantress, has conjured up." So when we hear that she is an example for us, here's an example of the example. Here is this infinite world, and what one claims as his possession will be left behind at death. Still, men cannot understand this simple truth. After she uttered these words, she was convulsed with laughter for some time. So I'll repeat that again. The brothers walked away to their homes, cursing each other. The mother returned to her veranda and suddenly burst into laughter. "What an illusion Mahamaya, the great enchantress, has conjured up," she exclaimed. Here is this infinite world, and what one claims as his possession will be left behind at death. Still, men cannot understand this simple truth. After she uttered these words, she was convulsed with laughter for some time. Anything at all about Holy Mother's relationship with her brothers, with the rest of her family, with this wonderful example that we were just left with. Anything at all?
It seems like, Brother Shankara, mother went through the same dynamics as we all go through in life, same family dynamics. Even though she was the supreme
Yes.
goddess, she still had to go through, like Sita in Ramayana, Draupadi in Mahabharata.
Mhm.
Like all the goddesses, they all went through, just like we all go through in our regular life.
Well, this is what Holy Mother said, that when the divine being takes human form, they are subject to all the limitations that the rest of us are, and trials and tribulations that the rest of us are subject to. Otherwise, how could we identify with them? How could we admire them
Exactly.
if they were above all this? If they lived in a palace,
Yes.
removed from us, sequestered from all the cares of the world, seemingly anyway.
That's true. Thank you.
We couldn't know them. We couldn't relate to them. No, we have to be able to understand what they mean when they say, I have overcome the world. And furthermore, what they mean is, I have done it for you.
Thank you, Brother Shankar.
How great.
Yes.
Mm.
She endured
If
so
we
much.
take any hold, it says in the evening prayer, if we take any hold upon God in our prayer, it is by thy grace alone, since all thine austerities were practiced for our sake. They want or need nothing. They don't need to come here. As the next verse says, how great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age, to unchain us and set us free.
Thank you.
So how fortunate are we
We are. That's right.
that we have been chosen to hear these words, to be the ones who are part of this. It is a great, great blessing indeed.
Yes. She endured so much pain and tolerance. She had tolerance, and she exemplified to us, that became a great example, her resilience
Yes,
in enduring this pain and coming back normal.
right.
That's a great example for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Haima.
So why did they do it?
Why did who do it?
Well, you said they come, the sacrifice.
Why do they do it?
No.
Well, as we understand it, out of sheer compassion. They do it because they witness the suffering of those who are ready to listen, who have endured enough of embodiment and are ready to take the path of the saints, no longer need a body, so they come. They give that liberation to many in their lifetime, and then they leave behind instructions and an apostolic succession, a succession of people who can pass along their instructions and give us access to their treasure chest of spiritual attainment. As Brahmananda said, and he was not criticizing, he was just lamenting a little. We have the keys to the treasure chest. We have the keys to the treasure. But what do people come to us for? Potatoes, eggplants, and onions. So it's here the spirit of Sri Ramakrishna Well, I believe, Cindy, you've recently been reading the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, yes?
Yes.
Well, Jesus says very plainly in the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, I stood up in the midst of the universe and saw what was there and came to relieve the suffering.
Yeah.
And so they come because they love us, because they love their creation. And they know that there are those who are ready to cease this play of embodiment. And so they offer themselves as a sacrifice. How great was thy sacrifice? They need or want nothing. I mean, Krishna is very explicit about it in the Gita. I don't lack for anything. I don't want anything. I do this to set an example. And you be careful, he says to his disciples. You be careful. You do the best you can to set that same example, lest you lead people astray.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, Swayam.
I was thinking, so when we or I listen to the talks or read something and grasp even a small point that kind of opens up this joy,
Mm-hmm.
I want to share with whoever, I'm close to, I feel like sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So these beings who have touched the infinite, I mean, they are so overflowing with that joy. So they probably want to just give that joy.
Ah, yes. Such is in that book, Love Poems from God, we see over and over again. That's exactly right. They want to share their exuberant joy. Very well said, Swayam. So there's both compassion and love and the desire to share, as you said. Very well noticed, very well noted. Anything else from anyone?
I really like what Swayam just said, and perhaps they do need, you were saying they don't need anything,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe they do need something. Maybe they need to share that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Well,
not a need for a worldly thing,
no, but
but
yeah. I don't know that I would characterize it as a need. It's just a spontaneous. I think Swayam used the word overflowing. It's like yes. I think that's. I think they feel a desire to share. Desire, yeah. And certainly these saints would not have gone to the trouble to write these things down. I mean, Hafiz is very clear, you know. I do this so that I can share it with you, so that I can, and I will, from the distance of a millennium, I will come to you if you open your heart to me. That's a promise he made in a poem I just read this morning. So we'll leave it at that. We'll start with when Holy Mother was not in Jairambati next week. Any other last thoughts from anyone? Well, I think we can take great joy in the fact that we are, through Swami Chaitananda's grace, through Mother's grace, through the grace of this technology that we're sharing, we're being made aware of these things. O dearly beloved, a flower at your feet for each one who comes to your open door. A flower at your feet for each one who stands by your door and says, "Come to me, come to me," offering to break this world's chain that binds us down to ignorance, suffering, and death. A flower at your feet for each one who takes the path that you have struck through this, your jungle world. Om, Amen. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beings everywhere. And may you be in Mother's loving and protective embrace. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. May you have peace of mind.
Thank you, Brother Shankar. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Darshan.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.